Extract from The Prelude by William Wordsworth. One summer evening, led by her, I found a little boat tied to a willow tree. Within a rocky cove, its usual home. Straight I unloosed her chain, and stepping in, pushed from the shore. It was an act of stealth and troubled pleasure, nor without the voice of mountain echoes did my boat move on, leaving behind her still, on either side, small circles glittering idly in the moon, until they melted all into one track of sparkling light. But now, like the one who rose proud of his skill to reach a chosen point, with an unswerving line I fixed my view, upon the summit of a craggy ridge. The horizon's utmost boundary far above was nothing but the stars and the grey sky. She was an elfin pinnace. Lustily I dipped my oars into the silent lake, and as I rose upon the stroke my boat went heaving through the water like a swan, when, from behind that craggy steep, till then the horizon's bound a huge peak, black and huge, as if with voluntary power instinct, upreared its head. I struck and struck again, and growing still in stature, the grim shape towered up between me and the stars, and still, for so it seemed with purpose of its own, and measured motion like a living thing, strode after me. With trembling oars I turned, and through the silent water stole my way, back to the covert of the willow tree. There in her mooring place I left my bark, and through the meadows homeward went, in grave and serious mood. But after I had seen that spectacle for many days, my brain worked with a dim and undetermined sense of unknowing modes of being o'er my thoughts. There hung a darkness, call it solitude, or blank desertation. No familiar shapes remained, no pleasant images of trees, of sea, or sky, no colours of green fields, but huge and mighty forms that do not live like living men, move slowly through the mind by day, and were a trouble to my dreams. Even in just the title of this poem, Extract from the Prelude, the fact that this is just an extract from the prelude is significant, as this is actually part of a much larger piece, and William Wordsworth's pieces were often more like poetic essays. For example, the prelude is actually many pages long. Just for some context, William Wordsworth was a romantic poet. This meant that he liked to study things like life and personal development. So going straight into the poem, where it says in the beginning 2 lines, "One summer evening, led by her, I found a little boat tied to a willow tree." Here, it's being described like a fairy tale, and using pathetic fallacy straight away to indicate to us the way he's feeling. Now you see, here in these parentheses it reads, "led by her." This is personification of nature, alongside the pronoun her often being used to refer to boats. So, a little boat tied to a willow tree. This is very vivid imagery, whilst also being like a positive version of this phrase. And by saying this, it's showing and almost signifying a man's influence, and about how it's still anchored by the tree. So often boats are referred to using feminine pronouns like she, her, and the fact that this boat is tied to this tree is signifying how men had such an influence on women. So, to then move on and say, "Straight I unloosed her chain, and stepping in, pushed from the shore. It was an act of stealth and troubled pleasure." So here, going straight in there with a personal pronoun indicates to us that this is his experience, he lived it, it's something that he connects with on a different level to one where, for example, it was in the third person, he, she, they. So, by saying it was an act of stealth and troubled pleasure, here it's showing that this man, he's selfish. He is committing some negative actions, and he is confident in his ability. Troubled pleasure is actually an oxymoron, which indicates to us that though it caused small problems or consequences, it also happened to be something that pleasured him, something that made him happy, something that also led to him having to deal with the guilt and acknowledgement of the consequences that troubled him. So then he refers to the boat as his. He says, my boat. He is showing great ownership over this and how he feels that that boat belongs to him. So leaving behind her still, on either side small circles glittering idly in the moon. This is a semantic field of like peace and grace, tranquility. So here, by using magical language, it does give it that calm sense to it. So it then moves on to say, a sparkling light, but now like one who rose proud of his skill to reach a chosen point, with an unswerving line I fixed my view. So here he's showing great arrogance, confidence, pride, just in the fact that he believes that he is capable enough to do this. And he's proving to the reader that he thinks he's got this skill. He believes that he is the dominant person in this scenario, and that this pride is just one of the things that is top on his priority list. Here we also see enjambment in the structure of the poem. So this then therefore means that this is conversational. This has more of a flow to it than traditional poetry, where there might be, for example, more grammar just put in there. So you've got this punctuation that's stopping the sentences, but this is more of just a creative flow. This is just him spitting out these words, spitting out his truth and his feelings, his opinions. So then he goes on to say, upon the summit of a craggy ridge, the horizon's utmost boundary, far above was nothing but the stars and the grey sky. She was an elfin pinnace. Lustily I dipped my oars into the silent lake. So here he's believing that this is the highest point. And here we also see that this is a shift in mood, as we're going from just this kind of quietness, it's calm, to more of a descriptive mode of speaking. So to say the grey sky, this gives it a sense of tension. This is ominous. Nature is changing. So then to move on to elfin pinnace. This translates directly to fairy boat. And the word elfin can connote to something being small, delicate, fragile. So then to move straight on to that next line where it says, I dip my oars into the silent lake. This is showing that this lake, nothing is threatening about this. It's innocent, it's quiet, it's personified. He then says, went heaving through the water like a swan. This is a simile that connotes to the royalness, the elegance of a swan, and how he feels that this is how him and his boat should be perceived, that they are elegant, they are royal, they are important and intimidating. So then he goes to say, when from behind that craggy steep till then the horizons bound a huge peak, black and huge, as if with voluntary power instinct, upreared its head I struck and struck again. So here, this is a vault. This is a massive shift in tone. We see it going from this calm, descriptive means to more of a violent struck and struck again. The repetition of this violent verb helps to show his fear, actually. And so, moving just up the line from there, it says a huge peak, black and huge. This is metaphorical. It indicates to us how intimidated he's feeling, how dark and threatening the language is turning. And this is almost like release. He's realizing he's not in control. That no matter how much he strikes that water with those oars, tries to push himself forward, he's not in control. So then to go on and say, towered up between me and the stars and still, for so it seemed with purpose of its own, and measured motion like a living thing strode after me. With trembling oars I turned. So here, it's letting us know here that light is being blocked out. It's metaphorical. There is power and dominance in nature. Nature does not show any mercy. And it also shows us here the pure fear and vulnerability within this man in this moment. He is so vulnerable that the oars are trembling. He's trying to hold on to them, but he can't. The waves, they're that strong, the water, as he's striking and striking and striking, he just can't get this boat to move the way he wants. Which is where we can see the silent water stole my way. It's like an intruder. He's acknowledging that he is losing control. He then says, "Back to the covert of the willow tree, there in her mooring place I left my bark, and through the meadows homeward went in grave and serious mood." So here, the willow tree, he's saying that he has to make right his wrongs. He realises that removing the boat from that place, taking himself out to the middle, no supervision, no help, just thinking he's capable of doing all this is wrong. He should go back, he should try and fix it. And where it says, "and through the meadows homeward went in grave and serious mood," this is a juxtaposition between meadows homeward and in grave. Grave can connote to feelings of solemn silence, unsettling guilt, and we see a very vague and nondescript way of explaining how he feels. So we just told that he's in a serious mood. So usually writers will delve into what they mean by that and explain the feeling, but here they're just saying serious, because that could connote to absolutely anything. Moving on towards the end, we see, "For many days my brain worked with a dim and undetermined sense of unknown modes of being. O'er my thoughts there hung a darkness, call it solitude." So here we see that there is long-lasting impact and that he is struggling to understand and comprehend what it is that's actually happening, what nature's trying to tell him. And he's reflecting on the inner conflict of what he's done, why he's done it, and whether he should have done it. He's losing his pride. He's understanding that not everything is as it seems. There is a massive juxtaposition between the beginning where it was peaceful and now it's just turning sinister and dark in both language and just general consensus. So it is here in the line, "There hung as darkness, call it solitude," that we see how the poem is changed from euphony to cacophony. So from the use of soft sounds to harsh sounds, like how in the beginning it would explain things as troubled pleasure, glittering idly, sparkling light. And now we're talking about darkness, desertion, solitude, all within the semantic field of solitary, being alone, lost. So it then goes on to say, "All blank desertion, no familiar shapes remain, no pleasant images of trees, of sea or sky, no colours of green fields, but huge and mighty forms that do not live like living men, move slowly through me, the mind, by day, and were a trouble to my dreams." So here it's almost like a nightmare. He's realising he was never in control, no matter what he thought, no matter what he felt, he was never the one in control. Nature always had a handle on him. And that no matter what he could have done, he would never have been in control because nature is just that powerful. And this is a juxtaposition to the beginning, because in the beginning it was really calm. He thought he was in control, he thought he was skillful, he was confident, he was arrogant, and now he's scared. This memory is haunting him. And he leaves us on a cliffhanger at the end of this extract.